that, let's go ahead and get started with our speaker, Daryn Lawson. He is a partner with EAM Consulting and a Sandler Sales Trainer. He helps business owners and salespeople achieve their goals, thus helping to improve their lives. Daryn uses his experience as a golf instructor, business owner, and professional sales professional. I didn't catch that. A professional sales professional. I like that. So he's very professional.
I am very wordplay there.
Yeah. You'll have to explain it.
Yeah.
Fun and engaging learning environment. He is known for saying, "I will teach you to putt." For a golf instructor, that's good. Pick up the telephone. Daryn is a native of Downriver. He's a graduate of Trenton High, where he played on the golf and hockey teams. Has a marketing degree from Grand Valley State. Been selling since the young age of 9 when he became a caddy and a weekly paper route. Been in business professional selling for the last 33 years. And he was recognized as state's top teacher in Golf Digest in 2005. So today's workshop is how to take control of the sales process. So please welcome Daryn Lawson.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you coming down this morning and being out here. I promise to screw things up. I'm a sales guy, so if my technology goes bad or I fumble, I promise to do that. And so as we get started, there'll be a few things. Want some interaction today. There's some sheets in front of you that will a little bit. Feel free to share or ask questions, interrupt as we go through this, add to so that everybody can learn. And we'll really go through some of the things on a kind of surface level in the sales process and where we go wrong. So how can we improve that? That's really what it's about. How do we recognize where we're at in sales to get better, to be able to repeat things that we know we're doing well, to close more sales. So there we go. There we go. So we met JT, he runs our organizational excellence program, and I do mostly sales and sales management, training, consulting, anywhere from a public training environment like this area, what we're doing today with a lot of different businesses, or one-on-one coaching. So just a quick overview here. How many are familiar with Sandler? Okay, so a couple of you. So it's a global company. We're a local franchise. Eric Meyer, who I work for, I work out of the Detroit office and Grand Rapids office. We also have a Lansing office, so we cover the state. Right now, there's 7 of us in our firm, and but globally, some of those larger companies, we can hit some of those other countries too, all teaching the same thing. Worldwide, here's kind of a quick map where we're mostly located. So it's a proven system. Some of our bigger companies, some people like to see that. It matters to you. JT asked me the other day as I was putting my does this really matter? And I said, it might to somebody, so I'll show it, but it probably doesn't matter to you. So it is a system. It's been out there. It's not my way. And when you start to think about your sales and business, you want to really get an idea of where you're at, have things that are repeatable. So ongoing reinforcement. That's really what this is all about today. So our agenda today is it's going to be about an hour talk, interaction, and can't buy anything. I can't sell you anything today, but at the end, I will ask you to make one little decision. I won't tell you what that is right now, but at the end, you'll know. And then the last 20 to 30 minutes of today is just kind of open talk, open discussion, aha moments, things that you kind of hit home, you're thinking about. Maybe you have a question on something that you heard, want more clarity on. That would be a great time for that, so that everyone can learn from everybody. And then as an upfront contract for being here today. I'll also send, I think Mark will give me a list of your emails. We have a free gift for you at the end I'll tell you about, just for listening to me. Was that good with everybody?
Sure.
That's
All
a
right.
deal.
That's a deal, all right. So now whiteboard exercise. So this is where the sheet comes in here. Vanna, can you get to work? Vicky.
Oh, Vanna.
So start off, and probably a couple of you I messaged on LinkedIn, but kind of ask yourself a question, you know, my salespeople, if you have salespeople under you, or I could sell more or be more effective if. So just kind of a thing, there's some space here, the three. Try to write down three right now, right in front of you. Seconds for that. Put your copies kicking in. We're getting pretty close. And then the second thing is just in your mind, and you can write it down. What's it in terms of your sales, whether it's commission, profits, however you look at your sales, in round numbers, just kind of think to yourself, of those three things, what's the approximate dollar amount it's costing you? Just in your own, just so you get kind of idea of some of these things. that
Per
we worked on.
person or the whole or lump sum?
Well, do you have people that sell for you, or do you just by yourself?
Okay. I see.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can do it either way.
Okay.
Just more for internal thinking of where your business is at, where your sales are. And then the last hardest question, and just thinking right now, you may not know, you know, what you really need to work on, what's out there to work on it, you know, but what level of commitment, if you were to do something, one being you're not going to work on it, 10 being you're definitely going to work on it, and you need to work on it. Just write down for yourself, you know, what level do you think you're at right now. And then those last two, those are always good to go as you're assessing your business and plans for the week, for the day, you know, just kind of see, you know, where you're at, driving towards those goals. Different pressures. All right, so everyone, so a quick little exercise. AT here, if anybody is willing to share some of their things to really make this effective and efficient on the three issues, right? The things that you can sell to be more effective. Anybody want to share one of theirs? So at the end, if we cover these things, it'd be a pretty good talk.
What I want to do is I want to learn to ask more questions and show more interest in the client. And I'm really interested in not just in the sales. That's one of them.
Okay.
And I want to listen more. Sometimes as salespeople, we have a tendency to talk too much. Besides you, I don't want to talk
Okay.
together.
So
And
ask more questions and listen.
Yes,
Okay.
and the last thing is remember things about the clients if you have to write it down. So that when, even if you don't get the sale, but you see that client again, you would say, how's your golf game going? Or how's your children doing? You said one of them was graduating. And I just think we've lost the real personal touch in our society today. We're so focused on the sale. And sometimes you won't always get the sale. No matter if you have the best product in the world and the best company.
So remember more, is that,
Yes.
okay,
More discipline.
more discipline. Can you tell me more about that?
I get sidetracked very easily because I do wear a lot of hats at my job.
Okay,
So when you check email, just check email and then don't let it interrupt your day for a time frame like that. Like just, the refocus of answering the phone, doing the email, doing all those kind of like having to refocus a lot. So just staying more disciplined in the task at hand. So make phone calls for 1 hour, that's all I should be doing. So the discipline of following the process of sales, I guess.
okay. So was that
More
more?
monotasking, so focused on one thing at a time.
Okay,
Yeah.
more monotasking? one thing at a
Yeah,
time?
just the
Okay.
discipline of the process, right?
Okay.
Like-
Time
like-
blocking,
yes.
this stuff.
Yes. Time blocking would be an excellent way of putting it.
For me, it's the information about the clients prior to meeting with them. So the more I know, the better I'm able to serve my families. So by just, I work for a funeral home, so if my directors just give me, Mr. and Mrs. Smith need to speak with you.
Or what?
Yeah, so I'm not going in, unaware of the situation or anything, my position is, it's delicate too.
Mhm.
So for me, the more information I know that my directors or my staff can tell me, the better I'm able to serve the families.
Excellent.
Success.
That right?
Sure.
How would you normally get that now? What,
For me,
Yeah.
usually my directors will say, Linda, so-and-so needs to speak with you. So for instance, I just got an email last night from one of my directors and said, I've been in contact with this family, X, Y, and Z, but it sounds like they were working with the past person a year ago.
okay,
That's all I know. So obviously I'm not going to call this family and say, hey, I'd rather go in with a lot more information. So that helps me, from my position at work, I am the last stop at the funeral home. So if they have a rocky, experience, whatever it may be with what I do, that doesn't leave a good name for our company. So even if everything else went really, really well, I'm the last stop. So I still have to, I essentially be like the cherry on top, and make sure everything runs really smooth. So.
so just more information
Mhm.
from, okay, great.
Yeah.
Anyone else want to add?
Let's see, advance sales quicker,
Advanced
shorten the sales cycle.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? What,
So what I find is, as the cycle draws out, the percentage of winning declines rapidly. So it's the concept of shortening the cycle. And then that in turn should get more deals into a cycle, which should then improve the revenue position,
short sales cycle?
shorten the sales cycle.
Right. Anybody else?
I just wrote more in-person networking occurring. I'm glad to see that happen.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it?
Yeah, because I think people buy from people they know and people they like,
Mhm.
and people they trust. And so you can build that relationship a whole lot better or more easily if you're doing that in person, looking people in the eye.
So more networking, more in-person meetings, that would help for you.
It would.
Okay.
I think.
Okay,
The other thing I wrote down was being more bold about asking for referrals. When
Okay.
people have enjoyed what you've done in service or product, actually asking for a referral, either a direct referral, oh, I know somebody who I could introduce you to, or an indirect referral on Yelp or travel something, or just writing something that you could add to your website.
Anybody know spelling?
what's that?
Are you saying?
Anybody know spelling on this one?
F-R-E-M-E-R-R-A-L-S.
All right, all right. I went to a state school, guys.
Go big, go big.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, your number's guy. No, that's perfect. All right.
Double check when you need it.
Yeah, where's the what's that? Awesome. Anything else or? That's pretty good. That's a good list. Yeah, thanks for sharing. There are a lot of things we do here, so we can just share challenges. Of these, did anybody else have similar? The ones that weren't shared, but anybody else that? There's some comment.
Yeah, I think all those, apply across the spectrum of business. I had one other that didn't pop up in that group, and that was increase the quality of the engagements.
What does that mean, Les?
So, what I'll find is, one team are pretty excited to get out in front of a prospect. And then when they get to the prospect, and they find out that the decision is 18 months from now, or the person they're meeting with can't cut a check, or, it's the qualification of the individual. So
Quality qualification.
somebody might have 10 appointments in a given week,
Yeah,
right? But if 3 of them are not qualified,
awesome.
it gives
So-
you a false positive.
Yeah, so that's a great list. And you can see everyone is just a little bit different, right? We all have our own challenges. So it's all about figuring out, who you are and what your challenges are. And, getting the help that you need from somebody, right? And what we're gonna talk about is why do these things happen? What can we do to prevent them? And there's some other, sales challenges that we normally see here. Just gonna let you look at them really quick, and if there's any that, stick out, we can talk about those too, make sure we get on those. These are the common ones we always hear, so getting people to take action. There's less than shortening the sales cycle. No structured sales process. Too many proposals, not enough sales. Overcoming price objections. So there's lots of different things, which is okay. So how do we start to work on those, or how do we know how to get rid of those? That's what we'll talk about. And I'm sorry, what was your name? What was your name again?
Jan?
Jan. So Jan mentioned this, right? You can't sell anybody anything until they discover they want it. But she said, people will buy when they like and trust you, right? I think to your point is getting to, people liking you and trusting you. When we first met, she was like, your first impression is really critical, right? And you need to start with that. So a lot of salespeople will have what we call fake bonding and rapport. They'll say things like, "Hey, Mark, that's a great speaker. Where did you get that?" It's really not the bonding and rapport. I mean, it might get the conversation started a little bit, but that's really not what this means. So when people like you and they want to buy from you and not to be sold from you, what really happens is that you've decided to have a business conversation, make business decisions between the two of you. And if you don't get that, you really can't start the sales process. It's just a meeting of somebody. It's an interaction, but it's not really a sales call. So when you can get to that level and say, yeah, I'd like to talk about business, that's really when this process starts. So that first communication. So anything up to that communication is what we would consider marketing. So your website, your LinkedIn, all the things that you might do, that's all marketing. And what we work with is really the communication of when we're first conversing, either by phone, webinar, Zoom, networking here. And when you can get that, you really can't sell anybody anything, right? The best way, and to years of asking questions and listening better, if you can do that, you'll get to this and really follow the Sandler rule. So go ahead.
One thing I wanted to say here is that we live in this social media society. And so I think that sometimes people feel that, well, I can send them a video or I can send them this or that. And what I have found is I always ask people, would you be comfortable in my sending you something? We have a tendency that we think that you're gonna send somebody a video and they're gonna say, oh, I want to buy all that product. It just doesn't work. We're inundated with so much information today that you have to pick and choose.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's overwhelming.
Yeah, and you're doing the right thing.
The other thing I want to point out too, it's like subscriptions to magazines. They entice you with $10 a year or something. The problem we find in this day and age is that because social media and we've got print media coming in, and there's really not enough time to do all of that. So you have to sort out what you want. And I would look, when I look at somebody as a prospect, you sort of have to look at their forehead and what it says in there. What's in it for me? Because they are the person who wants to buy something. And you just have to tell them what you have available. And if they have an interest in it, then they're happy. Until you convince them that that product is something that they would like.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with all of that, but I like the forehead reading, being about them, right? But you still can't convince them. They have to figure it out for themselves. And through that, we'll get to questioning and listening more. And the sales process, you'll be able to kind of take that pressure off you. And we'll see here in a little bit. So that's all awesome conversation. I appreciate you guys sharing and doing that. So the problem is, you can see there's lots of problems, right? What do we do? How do we do it? So how does this all come about, right? How many went to school either in high school or college and had sales class? No one? Economics, but sales, you did sales, where was that?
It was in marketing, it was through high school, because I was elementary education in college, but yeah,
Okay.
it was in high school.
So you had sales in high school? Okay, yeah, that's pretty unusual. But most of us, we get into sales, we have no training. And then they say, go out and sell. They give you accounts and territory and, things and what do we do, right? They don't train us. When you think about business, we are really the front line of a business. We're the revenue production, right? So why don't they give us the training that we need, right? And that's really where the big problem is that we're not trained to be salespeople. So you want to learn a process eventually. So what happens, we use what's called the buyer-seller dance as a kind of way to understand where you're at with your selling process and your interactions. The buyer-seller dance is figuring out who's in control. And David Sandler, when he developed the system, he wanted to figure out a system for himself that he always remained in control. So when we think about this and we talk about this, the reason all this stuff happens, why if we did these things better, we would know that we probably were in better control of ourselves, better control of the whole situation. So what happens in the buyer-seller dance, the buyer has a system and we have a system, right? And we as buyers have a system, so you can use that as you think through this here, little conversation. What does the buyer do to us, right? So easiest way is, in a retail environment, going into, Corvettes or a service merchandise that used to be behind us. Those were kind of self-serving, but Corvettes was probably more of a bigger department store than service merchandise. So when you go into like a Macy's or a Corvettes and you're needing help, someone comes and approaches you and they say, can I help you? What do you normally say as a buyer?
I'm just looking around.
Just looking around, right? But are you really?
No, you really have something in your mind.
Yes, right, exactly. So the buyer does that to us, right? Now, we didn't ask a good question, right? So we set ourselves up for that answer. But if we had a different question, we might get a different answer, right? So what the buyer really does first is they essentially lie to us, right? And we do this to people. And then we wonder why it's done back to us. And so the lie, I use that kind of as a rough term, but it's really, they don't really give us the problem or exactly what they're looking for or why they want to talk to us. So it's really not that bonding and rapport that we talked about. We're not really ready to do business at this point when we first interact with them. Then they may take your time and ask you a bunch of questions and try on a bunch of different shoes and ask about different colors, different sizes, and maybe their intent is to buy something. But today, and tell me if you guys have seen this, people take pictures of labels and prices and then they'll go online and shop. So they're essentially stealing, right? They're stealing information in a more of a corporate world, business to business instead of the retail. Buyers will ask for another proposal. Well, let's talk through this. How would you do this? And what we do as sellers, right? We want to try to please them and do that. So we create a whole other proposal. We talk through the whole problem. We tell them how we're going to do it. So they're stealing information because they still haven't committed to buy anything right now, right? So the third thing buyers do to us is they mislead us. So through all of that, they're not giving us, true answers. They're not being upfront. They're trying to steal our information, right? They're trying to get us to work a little harder. They haven't said they're going to buy anything yet. And then they mislead us because they don't really want to buy it. So they say, yeah, looks good. Let me think about it. Get back to me in a few months, call me. And why do they do that? Why are they nice to us? In this number 3, and they mislead us. But they're nice, right?
To escape out of the conversation.
To escape out of the conversation, exactly. Yep. And what they do is they might need us down the road. They might need our help. So they don't want to make you mad at that point. And then because we're still in the conversation, but that was perfect. They want to get out of it. They want to, move on. They don't want to be bothered anymore, right? The fourth thing they do, and we're trying to close, we're trying to get them to buy, become members, whatever it is, right? Whatever your product is, they sometimes hire you. Sometimes you do get a sale, but it's in spite of whatever that happened, right? So you may get business, or more times than not is they hide, right? They just don't return our phone calls, they don't return our emails, they're not upfront anymore, they're not engaging. They may set a meeting just because you got through, and again, they want to be nice, but they change the meeting time more times than not. So they're not really helping us, right? It's their system. And why did the buyer have this system? Right? It's really to protect themselves, right? They don't want to be sold. They don't want to be taken advantage of, right? So if you can set up a way to combat that, that's really what true professional selling is all about.
And sometimes you like to just say, could you just be honest with me? Just say yes or no.
Yes,
That's a great
That's what
question.
you'd always like to
that is
say.
one of the best questions.
That's a very good question.
How do you get to know?
Yeah, how do you get to know, right? You wanna get know earlier on, but, so the buyer has a system and they do it, we do it to other people, right? We do it to other people that we might not buy from.
Darren, can I make
Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
just a quick comment? Today, in, when, you meet young, especially, Michigan State grads, but, in most colleges right now, the absolute #1, business curriculum is supply chain. I mean, you can see that, and it's the #1 business minor at Michigan State, but supply chain is,
Mhm.
a lot of people go to college to study supply chain. And that's exactly what they teach them at the collegiate level, they just use different words. And it's called professional negotiation. And it is literally how, your young business grads coming out of most of the universities today are taught.
To do this.
Yeah, they just use a different terminology.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks, Les. Yeah, so they have this system, right? And through all our, except for you, training and sales, right? What system did we learn? We probably didn't. So we probably winged it, right? Or we watched and observed some people, or we did what we thought we were gonna do. And then going back to number 4 here, sometimes we've got business, right? And but we didn't really know what we did. So we go through every day and well, I gotta do something. So we try to do something, and sometimes it closes, sometimes it doesn't. So the traditional sales system is taught, if you have any sales books, they probably talk about qualifying right off the bat, right? And who was it? That's right down here, talking about the quality and quality engagements and qualifying, right? So what traditional salespeople do is when we have that first conversation and they're starting to lie, right? Yeah, maybe we'll talk, right? Let's do business, let's figure it out, and so 1-to-1, so it's gonna go back and forth now, understanding how this goes. They kind of get happy use. I got somebody, I'm gonna qualify. So you get the initial lie, the initial problem, right? Oh, I can help you. I got somebody, someone's gonna be able to buy from me, right? And number 2, as they're asking for information, you're really presenting a proposal, right? And presenting really quickly here, I'm sure I'm on time. But you're doing this just because that's what you think you need to do. You're doing this because you want to be nice, because if you don't, they won't buy from you. Probably they're not going to buy from you anyway. Realistically, happens a lot with construction, home construction. Getting new roofs, getting lawn maintenance, getting new windows. All sorts of things. You want quote after quote after quote, and they're really just trying to, figure out the best price and figure out the best way to do it. But they're really kind of stealing from that salesperson that puts in that time, right? Because they don't have the knowledge to do it. That's not their expertise. So, but they give another proposal. Then we try to close, right? If you have a sales manager or people above you or someone that you're reporting to, one of the first things is they ask them, what's closing this month? What's closing this week? Right? And you're still trying to close because you don't know whether it's going to close or not, right? Because it's pretty random. You don't know what caused your business to customers to buy anyway. And then this is the time most traditional sales probably said you got to be a good salesman, you got to overcome objections. How many people have heard that? Yeah, you got to overcome objections. Where if you do it right, you probably shouldn't have any objections. There should be some good conversation. And then we get into this, who loves the chase game? Right? Who loves the follow-up call after follow-up calls? How many should I make? How many times should I leave voicemails? well, they didn't respond to this email, what email should I send, right? So this is the buyer seller dance, and we always use this kind of as a baseline of, where are you at in your sales process? What are you doing? Where are you working on? And if you're letting them control it, you're gonna be stressed, you're gonna be doing activities that time blocking really hard because you don't know what to do. You're just gonna figure it out and you're gonna do it. But if you're in control of that, time blocking is pretty easy because you're not letting them control it. You're the one in total control. So Sandler, any questions on that? Does it make sense so far? Following me? Yeah, haven't screwed it up yet. So that's a bonus. And so we got this buyer seller dance where we're going back and forth. And, it doesn't matter what, how long you've been in sales. You could be new today, or you could be, 30, 40 years in sales. This still happens until you learn and develop some different skills, behaviors, or techniques. So our Sandler system, a little bit of what we're going to talk about is how to have a control process so that it helps solve some of these things for you. Number one is we believe in being disarmingly honest. Start a bonding rapport. And a couple times we've mentioned, just tell me no, right? But you also have the right to tell them no. If you don't think that you can do business or it's not going to be a good fit for whatever reason, you have to be able to quickly just tell them, no, I can't work with you. Save you tons of time and break that bonding and rapport. And then you should be able to, at this point, even with a no super early, you don't like the person or whatever, you still could ask for a referral. Never know what they're going to give to you, just because you're nice and you're honest with them right off the bat. Now, if you're honest and they're honest, right, you get that good communication going, right? I think the forehead type of conversations and you want to do business. Now the conversation goes, yeah, let's talk, let's figure it out, right? Let's make decisions together, see if we should do business. Now, there's still a lot of work to do, right? It's just not going to be that quick, but at least now you're in a bona fide and starting of a qualified prospect become a client. And this is when, right?
I heard one time, one fellow said, you're in charge of saying no before they say no, because when you say no, they're losing something. And that may create a little more interest in them when it's like, I give you this Hershey bar, and you hold it, and then they say, give me my Hershey bar back. You go, oh, no.
Yeah, kind of, yeah, that would be more of a salesy technique, but more you might have heard called the puppy dog technique, right? Take it home, try it, no one ever brings a dog back, so you end up buying it, right? Have you anybody heard that one? That's kind of what he's talking about. It's kind of salesy. We don't want to be real salesy. We want to be conversational. We want to be real. But no just means that you can't help them. And that's really what you want. You want to do that early, and you want to be clear about it. And that's the best way, because you don't need to do proposals. You don't need to go through a lot of meetings and lots of phone calls, and invites to a lot of different networking events. They're going to say no anyway, but you just can't help them. So you might as well just say no, let's be friends, right?
And you need to get a number of no's so you can go on to find the yeses.
Well, yeah, true, go ahead.
And then it'll help increase the quality and quantity.
Yeah, quality and your engagements, yeah. So number two, after we start to engage and we're really starting to have those conversations, we really want to have what's called upfront agreements, upfront contracts. And today when we started, I gave you a little version of it. It could be a little deeper, but it starts with the expectations of the person you're talking to, your expectations, time, agenda, outcomes of the meeting. And if you're clear about those, then that's really when the true process starts for you. And upfront agreements or little contracts, mini contracts we call them, happen all the time, but they should happen at the beginning of a meeting, at the end of a meeting. So you're clear about what's gonna happen. Some of these things, how clear are they? Access to more information, shortening sales cycle, more networking, all the things that go into those problems, there's probably not a lot of clarity, right? But we want to get to that point of clarity that we know we're doing the right activity to get some of these things accomplished, right? So the upfront contracts, these two are really in the Sandler process where we start the relationship. Right, so this is the start of your relationship. When you know you've done that, when you're honest, when you have agreements to talk further, to set meetings. Mark and I started this back in January or February, putting this together today, so I appreciate you inviting me out here. But there was a lot of, emails, times on calendars for us to talk a little bit, to coordinate all this. And those are those upfront agreements. And this is really where the brunt of the sales process starts here, is having kind of what's called an actionable plan. So you want to eventually, I said plan, I should say pain. I don't know why I said plan, but this is where your plan really starts, is understanding what their pain is. Now you remember in the buyer seller dance, that first one, didn't really tell us the truth, right? And that was kind of a surface level problem that they give us, right? They're not really telling us the truth of exactly why they came in. Oh, I thought your finger was just.
No, I'm just sitting
Just
there.
waving.
Okay, I
Yeah,
just want to make
waiting
sure.
for those eyes.
And the pain is really the first thing that you have to clear in order for you to know that business is going to close for you. And the pain has to be quantified. So this little exercise that I put you through, the dollar amount, it's kind of quantifying your pain. And if you and I were talking, we could talk about that. Why that is. Is it a true number? Is it not enough? Is it too much? Really talk about what that's costing them. So if you quantify it down the road, you can eventually talk about the budget and their investment in your services. But the two things you want in pain is, how's it impacting them personally? Whatever you're talking about, whatever your product is going to fix, the best fit pain, best fit for their pain, right? Is your product. And then how is it affecting the company? What priority is it for the company to really work on this and do business together? And if you can understand those things, that's the first understanding that has to be made. And then back to the very beginning, where people buy from you when they like you and they think you're honest and everything, right? This is where this happens. This is really where they say, I'm going to really continue to talk business. Anything happens from this point forward, it's because we screwed something up as a salesperson. And it gets a little bit down to here. So the pain is the first. Now, these things are all pretty deep subjects. I'm just hitting the surface level, right? So in pain, what are we talking about there? So there's a few different states. You guys have probably ran across this, but pain in the present is probably the biggest force for you. So if they have current need today, a leaky roof, flat tire, they need to do it today. That's going to be a little easier for you to sell than pain in the future. Pain in the future is kind of taking away the fear, where it's fear-based, right? So a lot of news media stuff, fear-based. There, it's a little bit harder to sell that. Question gets them harder to realize, the pain that they're going to get rid of if they use your service. The third one is pretty much everyone in Michigan. I haven't ran across anybody that doesn't like boating. But buying a new boat or buying a new hunting rifle or bow and arrow or whatever it is that gives you your pleasure is a third one. It's a little harder to sell. It takes a little longer. So depending on what your product is, And if you're in any of these areas, just, you have to know that the sales cycle could be a little longer. And then pleasure in the future would be like your financial advisors. The money, the interest rates that you might make from the plan, right? It's a little harder, it's a little longer sales cycle. There's a lot more planning, a lot more agreements, but it's way out. They have a hard time seeing it, right? So it's much harder. So if your product is something that they could use right now, paying in the present, and you're talking in terms of the future, it's a mismatch, and the communication's gonna be wrong. And that's where you'll get all sorts of objections, and it probably isn't gonna get past this conversation. So you wanna make sure that you're aware of all these things. And then the fourth thing, or fifth thing here is their interest or curiosity. And if you're talking to someone just to help them understand what you do as a business, probably not gonna lead to a sale just because they're just being nice to you, wasting your time. So you wanna know, where that's at. You can kind of categorize your conversations right off the bat. Then you can, really increase that sales cycle, or shorten that sales cycle, I should say, and increase your chances of getting further on in the sales process to eventually close. Make sense? Good. All right. So going down to number 4, in the qualifying stages here, the actionable pain, and then the investment. Another word for investment is what we call budget. And the definition of that is what they're willing and able to invest to fix their problem. And if you can't get to that, there's more than just money. There's time and effort. There's some relationship. Are they committed to working this with you, putting in all the time in the meetings and planning and getting you to the people that you need to get to, right? There's also some political clout. Is this going to look good inside your organization, right? So there's lots that they have to commit to for them to do business with you. And you want to know what those things are and what they're willing to do. That's the investment. Investment also gets a little bit easier when you talk about money, or the money concept, if you know what it's costing them to not fix it. So if you go back to your quantified pain, right, and you know and understand what they're, for them not to fix or not to them to buy your services, it's going to cost them a lot of money. To a certain point, they know they need to change and buy new products because it's just going to be a cost savings. So that's an investment. The third thing in qualifying is understanding their decision process. So these are the three things you need. So you need to understand their pain, you need to understand their budget, you need to understand their decision-making process. And the decision-making process is not when they're going to make a decision, well, that's part of it, but really understanding how they make their decisions, and the who, what, where, when, whys of their buying, right? If you know that, it's going to be pretty easy. And there's always usually hidden decision makers. No, don't want to mention that. But normally, you can get to pretty close to the end of a close, and they'll say something like, "Well, I got to talk it over with my spouse," or "Let me run it up to my manager," or they'll say, "The board of directors, they meet 2 months from now, and they'll make the decision on it," right? Well, why didn't you understand that up front, right? Maybe because you didn't know how to ask it, how to get that information up front, right? So in this stage, in number 5, you need to get that information before you can even think about getting your proposal together. Because if you don't understand who you have to present to, there's no way they're going to make a decision for you. And so getting control of your sales cycle, controlling, taking care of some of these things, right? You have to know that your pain is taken care of, the budget's there, they're willing and able, and then the decision making. How do they make their decisions? It also goes with what to present. Like, do they need to see an Excel spreadsheet? Do they need to see Darren's boring PowerPoint here, right? Do they need a demo? Do they need to see the products? Do they need to see a video? I don't know. You need to ask them. You need to find out what they need, how they buy things. And if you can find out how they buy things, your chances of closing just increase. All right, so your presentation would be next. And your presentation really is just a recap and solidification of all the things that you gathered from them, right? So all the information, all the answers that you need to know that you can still do business with them, that your product's going to solve their pain, right? And then it's okay to propose. And very rarely when you present and put a proposal together at this point, are they going to say no? Because it just matches. It matches what they've agreed to, it matches how they buy, it matches their willing and ableness to invest in themselves to fix the problem. And there really shouldn't be any objection. The only time right now, if you think of that buyer seller dance, where it says overcome objections, at the close, is if you put something in the proposal or talk about something at this point that wasn't talked about or agreed upon before. And they just, everybody, looking around, you're all like, yeah, that's where, people slide things in, right? I didn't know about that. When did we talk about that? So if there's any of those things there, you want to talk about those through the whole process. Be upfront for them. And when you get to this presentation or proposal, it should be pretty easy. And then the last thing is post-sell. And even though you might have a signed contract, you might have agreement to do business, everything's perfect, you still want to have this step. And this is what's called post-sell. So it eliminates buyer's remorse, allows them, it eliminates them from canceling your contract and then not doing business with you. And it also is the time that you can help them figure out how they're going to displace their current provider. Right? So we're pretty much all in a displacement business. We all displace somebody at some time. And this is a way, if you get to this point, that you can assure that they're going to stay and keep business with you. So you don't get those called cancels or we're not doing anything. I don't know why I did that, right? Cancel. And if you can walk through those steps, now you have a way to understand where you're at in your process and to help all these things, right? But we answered most of those, right? Ask more, listen. So through all these stages, definitely it's all about questioning and listening. Remember more. What was remember more?
There's like attributes of people.
Oh, yeah. So remember more, like as you go through these stages and you know what questions and information that you need to get, these are the ones that you know that you can keep track of, right? So you know your notes, because you know what you're trying to get. If you don't know what you're trying to get, you don't really know what type of notes to remember or write down. More, we touched on that before, time blocking. Where should I spend most of my time, right? In these sevens? Well, it depends on what stage you're at with each person. In the buyer seller dance, there really isn't a stage because it's going back and forth and you're always trying to combat what they want to do. You don't really know what the next step is. There was no agreements on any of it. It's very hard to understand where that business is and when it's going to close. So if you have a system like this, now you can say, where am I with this account? I'm in the budget step. And you know exactly what things that you need to do to accomplish that and move forward. What else? What did I want to cover? More networking. More networking, that's just an activity we call a cookbook. There's planning. Once you know your plan, once you know your goals, trying to figure out the activities that will lead to that goal, whether it's a networking event, calls, emails. And that also goes up into the time block. It's just setting time, to that, so that you make sure that you're getting out and having those communication, those, sales conversations with you, right? That should help with us. Ask for more referrals. So in the, back here. I think it's space. The number 3 in action, oh, sorry. Number 2, the upfront agreement. One of the things we've heard talking about no a couple of times, right? In your upfront agreements, one of the things that you'll get is you'll get a yes, right? If you do everything right. You'll get a no. They'll tell you no, that they don't want to do business. You'll tell them no, right? And you'll get a think it over. If you get a think it over, you've done something really bad. You don't want that. You never accept think it over, right? But the last thing you'll get and should always ask for is a referral, no matter what. Even if you don't think that they're going to give you a referral because they're not going to do business with you, ask them anyway. So if you guys know anybody that this talk here would be valuable to them, appreciate a referral, appreciate your help. See how easy that was? So it's just whenever you feel like you need to ask for a referral, just ask, because you never know where it's going to lead. I actually, when Mark and I connected, it was through a referral from one of my networking referral partners that was connected to Mark. That's how we got connected. So it was just an ask, for that. All right. So how do we do that? Some of the things that we do in class, we talk a lot about, all those in depth. There's lots of different activities and role play and interactions. We also use what we call success triangles. So we try to hit on all of these through the class. So there's behavior, there's attitude, techniques. Anyone following the Cabrera 500 race? We call this the batting average. Be his 500th home run, but at different times you may have to work on your behavior. At different times you may have to work on your attitude. At different times you may have to change your technique. So through coaching, through the class, through understanding what we just went through here, which is going to be appropriate, I don't know, but that's how you would start to work on yourself and really start to take control of that sales process for you. All right, so almost right on time. I'm like 3 minutes early from the hour. Love that. So today, right now, appreciate everybody, with the conversation and interaction. If there's any aha moments, you have any questions, anything that you'd like to talk about, things that popped out or you're thinking about now. And then I'd like to, if you can share, if you want to, you don't have to, but one idea or one thing that you think you can kind of think about to start kind of recognizing this week, and just see if you can kind of look at your sales process a little differently and kind of understand, where you could be doing a little bit better. So I think who's first? Go ahead.
I have, I like to learn a lot of different things. So my problem is about something of what Heather was talking about. And I have been reading this book called Indistractable.
Good.
So what I have on the side of my computer is, it's sort of like, do not bother me, because right now I am being focused. And it would be great, well, I work from home, I work by myself. The only one is my husband, he works from home also. But if you do that and you really get focused, and when you talked about emails, okay, go in there and just see the emails that are important, and that's it. Don't read anything else. Then another thing is, if you're doing your phone calling, this is what you do. You get distractions, don't do it. So that has been so helpful. And the other thing, when you had on your time blocking, did you know that President Eisenhower former, some of you probably don't remember him, but he used time blocking.
Mhm.
And I have his chart on what he did. It was in this Indistractable.
Okay,
It was wonderful because if you do time blocking, and I'm working on that, believe me,
Sure.
it's, this is a real process on everything.
mhm,
And, you know, as they say, the road to hell is paved with the best intentions. It really is. You
yeah.
think you're going to do it.
life, right?
Oh, I'm so excited about this. Then you go back to the office and then everything hits the fan and then you're sort of like, oh, Lord, what am I doing? And the other thing is, this is a great process. You learn the process, but what you have to do is you have to become yourself. You have to put yourself in that process because I'm not just gonna talk, it's Daryl.
Daryn,
I can't do everything that Daryl does. I have to be me. And I
sure.
think sometimes we want that hidden secret. And you know what, guys, there's no secret. Boy, I wish there was. I'd be the first one in line to get it. But it was very good. This really does help to review a lot of things that I have learned. And
Right.
there's been a few aha moments. I like the things about pleasure in the future, pleasure in the present.
Okay.
And I'm going to do that when I do presentations, when I talk to people. And if they are still undecided, I'm just going to say, well, you know, this may not be the right time for you, but would you have a referral of someone that might be
Perfect.
interested?
That was perfect.
So
Great job.
thank you. It was really informative. I get something out of these workshops every time. If it's one thing.
Yep.
You've done good.
Yeah, awesome, thank you. Anybody else?
I would definitely say that the saying no up front is, as a salesperson, it is not what you're taught, right? You go till you just keep going. Eventually, they're gonna say yes. That's kind of what, I mean, like you said, we don't have classes, right? So
Yeah.
that's just what so thank you for that, because sometimes no is the best answer. Like
For
it just
sure.
releases you from the spent time that doesn't need to be spent. So that was really good for me to hear today. But I was just gonna say also, like, in knowing your prospects. So if your prospects are a wide range of people, I know a huge learning moment for me was certain corporations who do advertising, they solidify their budget in October for all of the next year. So talking to them in March is not doing me much good. So just knowing like your prospect and when you're going to go try and make those relationships is a huge time saver in itself. If it's a small business, well, they can make decisions kind of whenever they want to, if there's only one or two people. So that was all. I learned that time saver about 5 years into my business, so 5 years.
Yeah, that's right.
But
Yeah,
that's just knowing, again, more information. It doesn't have to be specific about the person that you're talking to that moment. It could be about their type of business in general.
yeah, I think the bigger the company, especially business to business, the sales cycles, we call it enterprise selling. There's a little more complication to it, but it still follows the same process that we talked about today. And where you're talking about the decision making, you really have to know how corporations buy.
And
So-
Daryl, when we're talking about this, I'm sitting here thinking, I could just see that big no. You go, no, it's not a no, it's not a no.
No, knows good. It saves the time, effort, and it saves a lot of resources too, because especially in corporations, if you think about it, where you say you're gonna close and they start putting plans together, order materials and put together stuff, and all the resources that go into, potentially, supplying that deal. Then it's a no, down the road. Now what's the company do? It just wasted a lot of money on inventory and everything else. And then they have to, get their salespeople to try to sell it at a discount, now they lose profit. It's just a snowball effect because of poor decision making and not really understanding the process for it. So, anybody else?
I think the no is important to the salesperson more than to the prospect.
Yeah.
Because you have to realize not everybody's gonna buy, not everybody's gonna like you, so you need to and
Yeah, they
click
need-
the
they-
move on.
Yeah, they need to know that they can say no to you psychologically.
Yeah.
If they know that, then it makes for an easier conversation.
And then you follow up with R, referral.
Then
It's
you
referral.
follow up with an R, right? with approach, right?
I was gonna say, the one thing you didn't mention specifically, but I'll mention the word when you were talking about honesty is integrity. That is a key essential thing that we're taught with PUTT, which I can talk about a little more freely now that I'm not part of them anymore.
Sure.
The other thing I was gonna say, now is.
No worries.
So
So
yeah, I was gonna come back to
integrity
you
with
right away.
integrity.
No, it had nothing to do with that. It
Oh,
was
okay.
something separate.
All right. Let's come back.
I know what I was gonna say. One thing to bear in mind that I think everybody in here ought to know if they don't is just because somebody says no, doesn't mean it's no forever.
That's right.
Because down the road, they can always say yes. I've had it happen to me plenty of times for sure. So,
Yeah.
I
Bear
would
that in
agree,
mind.
yeah, I would agree with that 100%. They may not need what you're selling right now.
Mhm.
And they may not have a friend who needs what you're selling right now, or a colleague or another business.
Right.
But somewhere down the road, if you've built that relationship with that person in an honest way with integrity, then when that time happens or when that incident occurs where they're actually going to need what you have to offer, you'll be top of mind if you continue to build that relationship. If you discard them the minute that no happens, that referral will never happen. Somebody else will be top of mind for that product or that service. So I think that relationship building is huge in sales. Whether or not they're the actual person who's gonna be the buyer.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree on that. I think the whole process has to be nurturing and honest, right? And when you're nurturing and honest with peer to peer or adult to adult, when you let yourself, combat that and be combative and just be abrupt, that's never good for salespeople, for sure.
I know a lot in the supplier diversity end of larger corporations. Especially if you're dealing with the end user in the beginning who needs whatever it is you're selling.
Yeah.
By the time it goes up the chain to the committee or the manager or the comptroller gets involved or whatever, somewhere along that line, if the relationship is not strong, there will be somebody who says, well, the controller knows another company who they've dealt with before. Being the incumbent is the hardest part. Once you become the incumbent, it gets a little bit easier. So.
Yeah, good points.
I was just gonna say that when you do call that person, maybe 2 months from then, the one that said no, you can always say, it's so nice to talk to you. We had talked previously, has circumstances changed in your life that you might like to take a look at this?
That would be a
That
great.
is
great
one of the
follow-up.
best phrases I think that you can use.
Yeah, that would be a great follow for sure.
Darren, I thought your talk track on the upfront contract is applicable to, so many areas, in addition to the beginning of the sales process, but getting the firm understanding where you stand at all times
At all times, yeah,
with all people,
with all people, yeah, for sure. Thanks, Les.
especially kids,
And kids,
especially the children.
especially. His son, and my daughter just graduated together. The upfront contracts or agreements that you have, think of them as kind of bookends and in between. And you can have lots of bookends inside of it. But you really have to have clear understanding through everything. If you're doing that, you really start to take control of your sales process. And some of these things won't be issues for you down the road as you start to work on yourself and work on some of those things. So awesome. Anybody else? Go ahead.
I really like how you talked about just being upfront and honest. I think that makes such a huge difference. And there's so many of us that sometimes we don't realize how important that is. Because we've both been on both sides. We've been on the seller side, we've been on the buyer side, so we know how that
Right.
feels. And in what we do, I really, because I just feel like people just waste your time so much with, oh, send me another proposal, and you know that they're looking at 5 other catering companies. So I'm like, well, I don't have time for that, because it's crazy busy for everybody. So I just, I always, when I have one of those first conversations and what they're looking
Yeah.
for, I'm like, just be transparent with me on what you're looking for and what your budget is. Don't be transparent with you too.
That's right.
So don't, give me a filet mignon budget. I say all the time, don't give me a filet mignon budget, you got or
Right,
want, but you got a hot dog budget.
right.
Because we already know we're wasting each other's time. So tell me what you're looking for. I'm gonna tell you what we got and what I can do for you. So I love how you said, because sometimes I almost feel bad. I almost feel like I'm like, look, because I'll tell my friend, like, your time is precious and so is mine. So let me know what it is. And so I'm glad that you said it. Something I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
too
I don't-
harsh
don't
on
be
that,
afraid.
but-
Don't be afraid
You're
to
honest.
do that. Yeah, you got,
Yeah.
it's gotta be a mutual agreement between both of you, right? And if you already know it's not gonna happen, you might as well just call it, move on. Because your time is valuable. Yes. Go ahead.
When I do photography and I give a price,
Mhm.
for example, someone says, can you do pictures at a golf outing? Or what would you charge to do pictures at a golf outing? Rather than saying $100, I'll word it like, is $100 workable? Because they might have a different, maybe a lower number. And that way it opens up negotiation rather just being firm. Okay, if you give them a firm price, okay, thank you. And, they might just continue looking.
Yeah, let me go back on the slides. And take care of it. That's a good point there. So when you go back to this buyer seller dance, a little bit more coaching right now. The thing that the buyer does, right, is tries to steal information from us. So by us giving a proposal and presentation super early, it really sets us up for that failure. Sets us up for that hang up that's like, because we don't have any understanding why they want photography, who they've talked to. We don't understand what they're going through. When do they need it? We have a lot of work to do before you just give a price. And they may say, well, my sister-in-law was going to do it, but she can't do it now. Well, now you have some armor, right? You got something to say that they didn't give you up front if you just gave your price right off the bat. And that's where it gets into the buyer-seller dance. Is they're trying to get information from us, but they're not committing to anything. So they have to be able to engage in a conversation, ask a bunch of questions. One right there, ask more questions and listen. You need to pull out a lot more information before you can give your price. Because if you say $100, but you go do it and you get done with your event, you go, man, that was a $400 event. I just gave up $300. So this system protects you and helps you set the price that you need to stay in business, right? And just, unless it's family and you want to be nice, you can do that. But most businesses really present way too early and give up their price way too early before understanding anything. So when you go into,
Another question for Jim is, when the person says how much, you say, what is your budget? So you hand them right back that same question. Now he's on the spot.
well, again, it's a little combative. We don't want to do that.
What is your budget?
Well, it's a little
Everybody has a
combative, it's a
budget
little
for these
early. You can do it that way. It might work sometimes. But the easier way is to talk about, really his pain first. And understanding if he doesn't do what he's gonna do, why he's gonna do it. You really can't get to his budget because
Well, I think
he might not know.
yeah, in some situations like what Jimmy's talking about, taking pictures, everybody knows what happens. And the question is, how much can you afford? And if you give him back,
Maybe.
and because I remember one time we bought a phone system, the first thing the girl did, she went through a whole litany of, what are you gonna do? How many phones you need? How many lines you need? Do you want to do inter-office? Do you want to do this? You want to do that? You want to do this? You want to do that? But once you got that all done in print, then all of a sudden she knows exactly what you want. and which price range will be. And what she's done is she's just asked you everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so before him giving his price, he needs to find out all that information.
Yeah.
There was way more information that he needed before just giving like a price. That's
Well,
fine.
and not only that, before even just saying what they need, it's what you're providing. So before they hear a price, you're giving them every reason as to why you're worth it. So what, because it's developing that relationship and not being afraid to say no, because I know in my business, one and done doesn't work.
Right.
So your budget for today, are we talking about one ad or are we talking about for the whole year? Because there's a huge difference. And even talking that client out of one's not gonna work, that's not going, but if we took that to a smaller amount and did it over the year for consistency, now we can talk. So
Yeah,
I made myself worth it because I just told them, your budget's not gonna, it's just not gonna work because it's one and done. It's just not, let's rework it and relook at it. And I provided them a source because you're the expert in what you're selling. So you just need to know that they know you're worth it, like you're getting
Yeah,
that
we need to understand,
relationship that
we need
goes
to
in the
understand.
budget.
yeah, it's complicated. It seems like it should be easy answers, but it's not. So you just have to dissect it. But
I just have to add a little bit of trivia because I know it's getting
Yeah, we're
close to
gonna
the
wrap up,
witching hour. But when we're talking here, if somebody came up with an app, now ladies, think about this, about stealing things. Just think if you could go to the store and see a dress that you really liked. And what you do is you had an app of yourself and you take that dress and put it on that app to see what you look like in that dress, and then you don't never have a mistake because you put that dress on and they're all down.
Interesting,
No,
interesting.
put it back on the rack.
got a marketing mind right there.
When you're talking about this, I thought of that. Anybody really familiar with who could come up with an app
I
like
think
that?
there is an app, actually.
They're probably-
I know there is for
I think my daughter
flooring
has
in your
ours.
house.
Yeah, flooring,
Yeah, you
paint colors.
can take a
I'm sure
picture of your room.
Yeah, you take a picture
Change
and
the
then you
floor.
put the dress on you on the phone.
Oh, yeah, it's very
Awesome.
cool. I mean, I'm sure it's my.
But good
Good
presentation.
idea.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, so
I mean,
we're starting to wrap up
Like
here.
if it's,
The one little decision.
Yeah,
thanks for-
anything they sell.
Like a kitchen floor, yeah. that's-
Yeah, kitchen
Rather
floor.
than Get the samples and put it all.
So let's say you go to Home Depot and they sell a lot.
Yeah, so we're starting to wrap up.
They would-
Thanks for all your
they would
participation
put
today.
anything they sell.
I think everyone's learning from everybody, which is great. The one decision that I did, if you look at your sheet here, if you could, the one that you wrote on, you can keep the second one. If you can put your name at the top. There's a few things down at the bottom. There's a yes, a TIO, and a no. Cross out that TIO. So that's to think it over. I don't listen to those. So the decision I want you to make is if you felt this was valuable and you want me to follow up and want to talk a little bit further about maybe potential sales training, just a phone call, it's not be doing business or anything like that, but just to find out a little bit more, circle yes. If you don't want me to follow up with you, no conversation, circle N. And then, I'll get these after, just leave them on the table. So cross out to think it over. And from there, if you know anybody, like I asked earlier, that you think also like to give talks, or if you have any your organizations that might want a similar talk, or maybe on a different topic or something like that, JT and I are available for conversations, for talks. Just get a hold of us. We'd be happy to talk to you about it. And as a thank you, Mark is going to give me your emails. I'm going to send out a thank you, a follow-up email to you. And in it, there's going to be a link to a free resource from Sandler. It's called The Sell. It's just a lot of sales videos, podcasts, white papers, some other public resources that if you want to do a little bit more digging and see if it can help you online at your convenience. I'll send that out to you probably tomorrow. And if you have any questions, when you get that, just let me know. And from there, thank you and good selling. Appreciate it, everyone.